fluster, especially if there's anything that's factually incorrect. Easier to correct it now. We'll just stop down and bring it back up.
Okay.
That's totally fine. We can edit it in post. But generally, we're just going to try to keep it conversational. The questions I have for you is, what is revenue orchestration? Why is it the right moment for it? What is the biggest misconception revenue leaders have about AI agents today? And then 3 years from now, what does a best-in-class revenue org look like? I reserve the right to riff on existing answers and kind of take the conversation where it goes.
Okay.
We'll chat for about 10 minutes and get you on your way.
Brian, I have 3 different questions that I prepared.
Oh, sorry. You sure do. My bad. Glad we talked about that. I copy and pasted your CEO's questions.
Okay.
So I just gave you a promotion. I hope you don't mind.
Well, thank you. It's been a big day.
Here we go. Walk us through how a company should plan its first AI agent deployment, operational mistakes your teams make when rolling out agents, what metrics the sales leaders need to be looking at specifically between the agent and the human layers. What are the leaders doing to ensure sustained and meaningful success? Going to be a great conversation. I knew those didn't sound right. And do we say Angela Geringer Bennett?
That's right.
Full name? Perfect.
Full name. Yeah.
VP of AI go-to-market transformation at Outreach.
Lots of syllables, lots of words across all those things.
You know what? That's perfect. I'll just throw them in, and then by the end of the day, that spaghetti will all become a song.
I love it. Good.
Welcome
Perfect.
to Geekfire. That sounds great. Okay. We are rolling. Here we go. Oh, let me go there. Screen. Okay. And there we go. This is Hiring AI Agents and the Rise of Revenue Orchestration, a series from Outreach and GeekWire Studios, exploring how AI agents are becoming full members of the revenue team, and how AI-powered revenue orchestration is reshaping sales, marketing, partnerships, and finance. My name is Brian Westbrook with GeekWire Studios. I'll be your host for this series. I'm excited to be joined by Angela Geringer Bennett, Vice President of AI Go-to-Market Transformation at Outreach. Angela, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Brian. I'm really excited to be here.
Let's start with the company and how it should plan for its first AI agent deployment. Walk us through this journey.
Yeah, so I think one of the things that a lot of leaders get wrong is that they do think about it like a deployment. And what I would encourage leaders to do is think about it really like you're planning for a hire. I want you to think about, what is the job description? What should this person be doing? What does good look like? Who are they producing for inside of the organization or outside of the organization? That really, I think, helps them think about an agent in a way that feels integrated with their go-to-market team. The other thing I would say is that you have to think about the full revenue workflow. So many people are over-indexed on outbounding, prospecting. They're not thinking about all of the amazing things that can happen from opportunity to closed won, or even, retention, the customer journey. And so really doing it well, when they're planning it, they should be thinking about the full revenue work stream. I think the other thing, and this is my big one, Brian, they don't spend enough time.
I'm ready.
Brace yourself. They don't spend enough time thinking about what is stopping before what is starting. Right? What they're going to retire. I call this kind of a subtraction gate. And this, I've seen more deployments fail because they don't spend enough time planning the stop of things. So that's something I think that definitely needs to be flagged for people thinking about a deployment.
So when you talk about these deployments and you talk about things that you don't think about, would you say that what you're stopping, what you're exiting, what you're sunsetting, if you will, is the biggest operational mistake? Or is there something else that you see teams making as far as, ooh, should have done this a little bit better?
Yeah, no, I think it is the biggest operational mistake. I think, I see CROs kind of delegate decommissioning to RevOps. They'll say, okay, we're not going to do this meeting, or we're not going to do this spreadsheet, or we're not going to use this particular report to RevOps. What they don't do is they don't say to the sales organization, hey guys, this is when it's ending, this is what's stopping, this is what's replacing it. And so then what happens is, the frontline manager keeps that spreadsheet. And then as pressure grows, which it always does, that's when those kind of like relapses kind of sink back in. And then you've got a failed deployment on your hands.
Because you're not thinking about, oh, we've changed the way this is produced. We've
Right.
changed the way we've evolved this process, but
Uh-huh.
now we don't need this spreadsheet. We're not looking at that process. This meeting is now obsolete. Very interesting. How do you see the impact of that, and how do you correct for this operational mistake?
You have to outline that at the beginning prior to. So just like I was describing, right? Not, I think we spend a ton of time redesigning the workflow, identifying where the agents are going to go, what the agents are going to do,
Mhm.
what does good look like for that agent's output, what amount of efficiency or effectiveness gains that we can have. We're not spending enough time going, okay, when this deploys, that means that this can end. And then the CRO or the business executive has to communicate that and ensure that it doesn't come back around. I think Gartner, right? Gartner says that 40% of AI projects are going to end in 2027 because they can show no value. I'm
Right.
telling you, it's because they're not doing the stopping.
Right. Right. If you're doing A and B, then B can't show value because you're still spending time on A. If I just simplify it there, that's fantastic. Great insight. Let's talk about the layers specifically between agents and humans, the non humans and the humans, if you will. What metrics do these sales leaders need to be looking at
Yeah.
to kind of make sure that this is adding value and that they're really getting the revenue optimization?
Yeah, that's great. So I think they need to think about it in three different ways, right? How are they measuring value for the agent layer? Throughput, coverage, is it running and is it running at a high value? The handoff layer really is like what percentage of it is getting used. So if you
Mhm.
have agents producing emails or amounts of research or meeting prep or whatever it's doing, and the acceptance rate is at 12%, you've got a quality problem. You don't have an adoption problem. And then the human layer, of course, we have a ton of metrics as sales leaders on what the human is doing well. Those conversion rates, those metrics, they don't go anywhere when you've got the agent in, right? Your win rate, your, pipeline coverage, your correct connect rate, your accounts touch, whatever it is, those don't change on that human layer. We should, though, expect those things to improve as the precision and the effectiveness of the agents increases.
Anything you would recommend to these sales leaders to bring them front and center? Are these metrics different? Are they the same thing in a different lens? Are they more important, less important than the human layer?
I think one of the things that I would when I think about the metrics, I like to start too with ROI because I think a
Sure.
lot of people are really indexed on the productivity gains, which are I always make the joke that it's like getting a raise, and you're like, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna buy this with all this
Mm.
money, and then you look up 6 months later and you're like, did I even get a raise? I don't even know where all that money went. It's the same thing with time efficiency, right? And so when we're thinking about ROI, a lot of times they're going, okay, we can do this faster. And so we can kind of back into potentially what that means for us. But if you're doing low value activities more quickly, you're not actually going to see any uptick or see the ROI that you're hoping for. And so I like to say there's a productivity layer, but then there's a precision layer that I often think gets overlooked in ROI. And that's kind of goes back to what I was saying about the human metrics. You should see those conversion rates, those you know typical metrics that we've always looked at. You should see those increase over time. Yeah, so you can back into that, I think. So this is one thing I'll also say, Ryan, is that when you do combine those successfully, productivity and precision metrics to kind of back into your ROI, uh,
Hmm.
you can really start to get down to like unit economics. What does every pipeline dollar cost you? What does every close $1 cost you? And then you can go, all right, I've looked at my scorecard across all three of these things, and this makes good business sense for me to do.
Do we see organizations doing that? Are they taking your advice? Are they following up on this? Or is it just an opportunity that we can talk about here?
Yeah, I think that, oh my gosh, I think that a lot of sales leaders don't know how to do it. I don't
Mm.
know that they have thought through the ROI of the agents or even the success metrics that are necessary. They don't really, it feels very hand wavy to them. They haven't actually, I think, gotten kind of the thought leadership or the guidance on how to do that successfully. And that really, I think, makes deployments inefficient because
Sure.
right you don't know where you're going or what success looks like at the end. And so I think it's a huge problem, because I think it's one of the reasons why, if they can't figure out what good looks like, then how do we know if we're getting there? And so a lot of the work I do every day, sitting with like dozens of our enterprise customers and their revenue executives, is outlining this for them. And then they have like an increased confidence in going, okay, I know what we're doing and where we're going. And also now I'm going to tell everybody what to stop, because I know how much money I can make if I do it well.
Wow. What are leaders doing to ensure sustained and meaningful success? Let's say they've gotten through this process, they've taken your advice, they've listened to you in the room, and now they're saying, oh, great, this is working for us. How do they keep that momentum going?
Um, so this is a hill I'll die on every day. The frontline manager is the control point. So oftentimes they will redesign this whole workflow and it's going well. They know what success looks like, but they don't build a leadership framework on the front lines to oversee and inspect that those things stay the way that they should. And so really leaning into that frontline manager is where you're going with a leadership rhythm, a leadership framework. That's where you're going to see your first like lever for sustained success. Um, I think the other thing is that everybody worries about their dirty data. Everyone's like, oh, our data's terrible. That's the first thing. If we're going to pull,
Sure.
agents aren't going to produce what we want it to. They are overlooking this opportunity where the cleanest data is going to be data that a human never has to touch. And so I always recommend for sustained success that you really lean into conversational intelligence. Get an agent pulling all of that good stuff. Don't make a human write any of those things into the Salesforce or the outreach, fields. Get it straight from their mouths, put it in there. Then you have this hugely like gold context layer, and that's going to sustain success of your agentic workflows. Yeah, and then I think one of the last thing I'll say is that those that are seeing sustained success are redesigning the job. They're not just cutting headcount. You have to think as a leader, what is this job going to look like now? And then go from there. That will really help you sustain success. That will really help you sustain success as you move forward.
That's fantastic. We're chatting with Angela Garinger Bennett, Vice President of AI Go-to-Market Transformation at Outreach. Before I let you go, I just want to ask, what do you see organizations being able to embrace and do in the future? Are we improving, or are we going to see a little bit of a reset before things kick back up? What does the future look like as far as adoption in this space?
Wow. Okay. Hot sports opinion. I think that I think that we will see kind of a I don't know, a come to Jesus, a lull where everyone goes, oh man, we threw all this out there. It was the Wild West. We didn't have a ton of governance. We didn't identify what was stopping. We didn't identify what metrics we would show us what success is. And I think we're going to see kind of like a rebound from that. And then everyone's going to be much more thoughtful moving forward with some of the things I've outlined.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much for the time for joining us today.
Yeah.
Angela Garinger Bennett, Vice President of AI Go-to-Market Transformation at Outreach. I'm Brian Westbrook with GeekWire Studios. Thanks for watching.